I'm your host, Ashley Duell. I'm CEO at Duell Dev LLC and joined with my co-host, Natasha Velez with
At
MD
MD
Strategic
Strategic
Solutions.
Solutions.
And we want to talk a little bit today about the real estate industry. And I got to say, I made it a whole 10 years in government contracting before I even understood how this all worked in real estate because it doesn't, really go by the FAR or any other your normal contracting procedures. So um just kind of a lot to unpack there. And what I found to be interesting about it is it's the only industry that kind of relies heavily on state laws for governance.
Mhm.
So if you're qualified in your state to represent property owners and sign into commercial leases, then you are able to submit offers to the government.
Yeah, I think what people understand is that I feel like real estate agents are probably the best, like the best to go after government contracts
Oh yeah.
because they know and they understand what it's like about the ROI. They know that their time and their investment in the forefront is going to lead to that like final number. And they know if they put in the work now, they have that patience and understanding that they'll eventually get that payout later on versus, when you're coming into the government contracting sphere from like a work, you're used to getting paid continuously.
Right.
Because, in government contracting, we know that it's everything that you put in now won't get paid out till later. Um,
What's cool about, or well, I can't really say cool, but in real estate, if you're an agent, a lot of states also require you to be a broker to offer commercial property. So, step number one, check your state laws to make sure that you're in compliance. That's number one. But also, if you're a property owner, like
Mhm.
that's a different story. If you own the property, obviously you're legally allowed to represent it. So, you don't necessarily have to be a real estate agent. You do have to be able to legally make decisions with that property.
Yes.
And if you're a property owner, and let's say you work with a representative, you're only allowed one representative to sign in an agreement. So this isn't really a middlemanish type of industry either, guys. Sorry.
No.
Those that are in real estate, either you're in real estate or you're not, right?
Well, I think so. Let's talk about some of the ways that you could get into government contracting as a real estate agent.
Oh
What would
yeah.
be one of the main things that you could start with?
Well, I personally would start with property maintenance.
Yeah.
Capturing some of that O&M budget Andy was talking about, property maintenance.
Mhm.
And you can combine that
Yeah.
essentially because a lot of those property management companies are also, doing the landscape for that. They're also doing like the cleaning. They're cleaning the office space, flipping it over for the other tenant. So
Mm.
there's more than one way as a real estate agent. Good point. Glad you
Yeah,
brought
that is
brought up
true.
that angle.
I think
But
they have like, was it, they call it different though. They don't like call it real estate. They call it asset management.
right, yes,
Yeah, they
asset
call
management.
it asset management and facilities management.
And then on the leasing side, they call it office leasing, not real
Yes.
estate. So
Yes.
most cases, now there are other cases naturally, like when they lease property for, things like solar panels or,
But
whatever they're
even
putting up
still,
there.
I'll notice they'll say like housing. I never noticed they really like the keywords aren't huge in the real estate piece.
Right.
But
Yeah,
there
it's
are many ways to kind of go about like real estate. So when I first got into government contracting and BD and capture, I think I focused a lot on the real estate portion because I was working alongside a real estate broker. And we were able to kind of, expand within 6 months. We figured out what was some of the ways to make, do business in the real estate market with government contracting and what the government looks for and what they don't look for and who to focus on and who not to focus on. And a lot of it was GSA leasing. I think a lot of people, when they start getting into government contracting and their real estate agents, they'll see a lot of that. Um, Primarily within the military, the DoD looking for, let's say, recruiting stations. They're looking for a location to set up their recruiting office or to renew their lease. And they're looking for an agent to manage that and create and help them find a location for that. Another one was, the state and local areas where they're looking for, I mean, your Social Security Administration office or your driver's license office, all those offices are real estate and the government owns them. So they either are moving or they're starting a new building. They need someone to help them find that property so that they can build or move into it or if it's already ready.
Speaking of that, did you know that GSA provides workspace for more than 1 million federal
Wow.
employees? All of those office spaces, for the most part, like your Social Security office, I mean, all the DMV, that's more at the state level, but nonetheless, it's still government leased office space, right? What is very unique about this industry that, of course, I perked up when I heard is there doesn't have to be an actual solicitation for you to submit a property in AAAP system, which stands for Automatic Advanced Acquisition Program. There's
Ooh.
two primary systems. There's AAP and there's RSAP, which is Real Estate Acquisition Program. So
Mm,
the difference is like when you see a solicitation, and
mm,
by the way, for those of you looking, those are going to be under 531120 lessers of non-residential buildings. When you see a solicitation, often in the instructions to offers, it's going to tell you to submit it to the RSAP system. But if you just
yeah.
have a property, you're a broker, you represent Joe and Ed and John, and they all have office spaces in the area that are open, go ahead and submit the property. You never know when GSA might, be willing to move over a couple of zip codes if something's available over there. So just submit it.
Yeah, and they're really good about also giving like a map of the area that they're kind of preferencing. And it's always, what do we call it? The delineated area.
Mhm.
So like an area where, especially when it's
This general radius, right?
general range where it's like this area specifically has more access to shopping malls, transportation. They don't want to be in a remote location, right? Because they're not meeting their goals to be able to reach more people. But they'll give you a map. And I do find that the contracting officers are a lot more easy to talk to and a lot more they make themselves more available. They have a hard time finding locations
Yeah.
for expansion within a decent rate. Along with that, they're usually looking for a build out. So I think what's really nice about real estate agents is they have that, what we always kind of talk about, not only the market analysis capability, because they're used to doing it within their own industry. So they're able to kind of easily I would say, transition into government contracting and be able to do market analysis. Along with that, they have a huge network. They're already used to that. They're like the whole point of being a real estate agent is the collaboration. So that wealth of network is going to help you so much in this industry because it's like, all right, cool. I can help lease out this, this location. I can find the location, be the real estate agent, but then I could find, I have a construction crew, or I know someone that's in property management that can rent out this property, or I have someone that can build out. So they have a way of being able
They
to
have a
connect
huge
all the
network.
pieces.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really nice to see because that really lines up well.
Yeah. I actually had a client who is a real estate agent, is a broker, was already doing, sort of the property management on the commercial side, residential, et cetera. I mean, of course, being in Florida, that's like a big industry down here.
Mhm.
I mean, nobody manages their own properties in Florida. So, but it's kind of a natural progression. You already have that network. You already know, your preferred suppliers. If this guy's not available, you already know who you're going to call. So that network, and we preach this a lot, but it's in any industry, it's super important in having those people. So it becomes very challenging for new small businesses um, to compete. But this is one industry where even if you're an individual,
Yeah.
and you don't have an LLC, you're an agent, you're a licensed broker, register in SAM.
Mhm.
I gave you the NAICS code 531120, lessers of non-residential buildings, in case that's been updated. Search for the title. And when you're submitting an offer, to the platform. Like the solicitations, I've seen some get very, very specific. You get the normal stuff, the square footage, is there security at the door? What's the building made of? Is it in good condition? Um, you also have like location, accessibility. Is it handicap accessible? You have HVAC and environmental controls, utilities and infrastructure sometimes. Whether it's free parking, paid parking, covered parking, on-site parking, off-site parking, garage parking, sometimes they'll spell it out, what's okay with them or what's not okay with them. So you kind of have some to work with, if you're in this industry, you're already a broker, even if you don't already know the building owner, that, gives you kind of identifying the type of property the government's looking for is sort of a roadmap and a blueprint on what properties and what relationships you need to start building with which owners. So,
Yeah, and they have so some of the things that I know someone had asked me the other day, like what are the opportunities that you can like look for other than leasing? Um,
mhm,
obviously there's not like high margins on leasing, but I digress because when it comes
right.
to leasing, the government's not looking for a year-to-year lease like your usual
They're like
rentals.
5 years, 10 years,
Yeah.
right? Long
I've
term.
even seen like one was the Social Security Administration, it was 20 years.
Wow, 20?
So think about it that way. Like if you had and how the commission works on that is if it's like 20 years, and we all know commercial is way more, averaging about, let's assume we'll use low numbers. Let's say 25,000 a month
Mhm.
times 12 months. That's 300,000 a year. For some in residential, that's just a house. Well, not in this market, but yeah, it's two houses.
Yeah.
Like half a house.
You can have
But
the barn out back.
yeah. That's my kid's apartment. But now take that 300,000 times it by 20 years. Now you're at 6 million. Now, when you're looking at commercial, the average rates are anywhere from 6 to 7 to 8%. They're not the same as the 3%, 3 to 6%. So you could be looking at, let's be like, let's just say 4% for you, 4% for your broker. Now, in my case, I worked with someone who was the broker, so she would have made 8%. So let's assume you were the broker. 8% of the 6 million is $480,000 commission. That's a pretty,
Maybe I'm in the wrong business.
right? So that's what I mean. Like it's just there's still money in it.
Yeah.
You just have to look for the right ones, right? It's not year-to-year leases. We're not talking about small pennies. Now, when you're talking about smaller square footage, right? When you're talking about like maybe a little tiny office for the DoD, then maybe that's small, right? But of course, you have to
Mhm.
start somewhere. But over time, yeah, you can look for the bigger buildings, right? But even still, you can go into bigger things such as they have real estate agents to monitor, GSA assets. Let's assume for one, I think we did one bid I did in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia. And this one county, just one county, and Atlanta has, I believe, about 160 counties, something like that. Just one county managed 400 properties. And they wanted a real estate agent for the next 5 years to manage, which means
Interesting.
their 400 properties. You would be, where you're like searching for just one property to manage, they would have you manage 400.
You go from 0 to 400.
Yeah, it was like a
That
$20
would be
million contract.
wow.
So it's one of those things where it's a huge market, and you think about it. Not only are we talking about these federal buildings, but let's talk about the houses that are on bases. Those are
Okay.
homes that also require a real estate agent to manage. And the Department of Army, the Department of Air Force, all of them, they get real estate agents to manage those homes. You have people that leave, like you're shipped off. What happens to your house? Well, there's a real estate agent that manages that. And that could be you. So
So
I always tell my real estate agents, get your broker license so you don't have to share any percentage of your money, right? Get those 2 years in and then apply. But ultimately, yeah, it gets so much bigger than that.
yeah. and it's easy to diversify.
Mhm.
Having those connections, you're managing the leasing contract. You've got the lease tied, something goes wrong, someone needs to be called in to fix it. Property owner needs that managed too, right? Because that's one reason that you're getting paid. So you're then able to subcontract the handyman work, the plumbers, the electricians, on behalf of that building owner. So yeah, I predominantly have assisted clients in the service space. So the first time I got asked, how do I'm a real estate agent, I'm a broker, how do I do this? And I was like, great question. Let me get back to you on that. Had to go do my digging, do my research. Even the information was so scarce.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. I know how to find what I'm looking for typically if I don't know the answer, right? Crickets. I even went through the whole GSA leasing desk guide, which was it's super long. I encourage you, if you are in the business, you do need to read it. I'm not in the business. I'm not reading that whole thing.
Get
However,
get the
there
keynote.
are a bunch of resources and videos that I linked on our podcast page at
Mhm.
govconhacks.com/podcast. There's the GSA leasing resources, the Office of Leasing YouTube playlist on the GSA's actual YouTube channel. And they just had in November a leasing portal industry day. And that kind of goes through the two different systems, shows you what the differences are. And also, what was very helpful for me ultimately, and trying to figure out this industry and sort of how to engage in it as a small business or as a broker, was the GSA OSDBU. So huge shout out to Region 4. Those guys are great over there. All of them are, but Region 4 happens to be the one that I was engaged with in this line of questioning. So Major George and Paula Mensa, you guys do a great job, and I appreciate the knowledge. Then we can pass on to others. So I know we are a little late. This episode is probably going to be a little short because we've now got to edit it and then stream it so that you can actually see it. Apologies for the tech issues today, guys. Um, Natasha, do you have any closing thoughts for agents, brokers, and those interested in this industry?
Do your homework. I think that you have a kind of a step up above most people that get into this industry because you already have the problem solving skills, the marketing skills, the connections, the relationships, that market research capability. You're used to, you have experience with large transactions. Like you're pretty much in the game already. Um,
You're
and you
doing the
under-
things.
you're doing the things,
Yeah,
right?
you're already doing the things.
You're doing everything that's going to help you succeed. So if anything, I would say bid and start looking for opportunities. There's not much to go from there. But ultimately, do not limit yourself to just leasing. I find that that's what most of the real estate agents just look for. There's so much more to be had. Look at your state and local. Look at the management of facilities management. Change your keyword criteria to asset management. Also housing. There's lots of other opportunities, even in just teaching. There are plenty state and local and counties, that even universities, that are hiring real estate agents to teach on the market, to teach on how to secure a home, to teach on credit, to teach on financing. So, loan officers, people that help you with your credit. You have that capability to bring in that network to support you, and you can do things like that. I mean, there is so much more. If you have developers, you can look into building a property. Right now, with a good percentage of the individuals homeless because of the increased homeless rates, and the increased rate of just living in a home, people can't afford it. So a lot of government agencies are offering what they call no interest grants, and they're giving you money to build HUD efficient homes for either Section 8, disabled, veteran owned homes. And if you have someone that can build, if you know a contractor that can build those homes, and you have a property manager that can manage it, there you go. And they literally will forgive your loan, and push and make sure that all your requirements and licenses get through approved quickly through the county. So there's so many places that you can go through this. Don't limit yourself just to the leasing. You got to start somewhere, but just know, I always say 3 and go. Get yourself 3 good wins and then move on.
Yeah. Branch off, because once you're in the door, you're going to hear of other needs that exist, right? You're going to hopefully become a trusted vendor. And, having your ear to the ground will allow you to just naturally kind of diversify, regardless of whether you start here and you go to get your broker's license, or you start as a broker and you get into property management, facilities maintenance. So there's definitely a lot of room to move around
Yeah.
in the real estate sector in general.
Yeah, it's really lucrative. So I was pretty impressed with it. We're gonna try to do this once a month, a different niche. If you guys
Yes.
have a niche that you want us to talk about, we'll totally do it.
Let us know in the comments, please. And we're going to take the most popular and start there. We're going to
Yeah.
have an industry special once a month where we're just going to kind of isolate and hash out one specific industry, um, get a little bit in the weeds about it. So please do drop in the comments. We do watch the comments. So we will hopefully start putting those on the list throughout the rest of the year and 2025. So give us your feedback, guys, and check out the resources. If you are interested in the real estate space, check out the resources on our podcast page, govconhacks.com/podcast. And there is one thing, as in closing, there's been a question that was submitted by the audience. And I know that we have the link in the description, but somebody asked, how can we schedule with you? So I want to make sure I address that question, in case anyone's interested in getting on your calendar or on mine, that are wanting to kind of talk a little bit more specific about their instances. How can they get in touch with you?
You can go to my nvsstrategicsolutions.com webpage. There is a link that will automatically pop up and say hello to you. You can just say contact me and leave your information, and I will contact you personally.
Thank
But
you.
again, the only thing I do is proposals.
She said,
You
don't wrap me into that capture
don't put me in business development. I'm good. I can guide you, I can coach you, but ultimately, I'm the queen of proposals. Business development chick right here, she's got you all day long.
So, if anybody needs a one-on-one, feel free to schedule at govconhacks.com/strategy-session. I am pretty booked up, so no emergencies. If you are brand new to the space, be sure to check out your local Apex Accelerator first. Get all the free help you can. Unfortunately, our services aren't free because we are not nonprofit. So we're happy to talk with you and guide you, but be sure that you're utilizing your SBDCs, your Apex Accelerator, your SCORE mentor. If you don't even have a business plan yet, stop at SCORE, get that free help. There's plenty of it out there. All right, everybody, you have a great evening. We're going to go ahead and edit and stream this episode. Sorry for the tech issues, and y'all have a great weekend.
Bye.